Welcome to the deep dive. Ever stop to think about how you're sitting right now?
Mhm.
Could it be secretly messing with your energy levels, maybe even how much you actually get done?
It's a fascinating question, isn't it?
Today, we're really diving into that posture and its surprising links to critical fatigue and work productivity.
Exactly. And this isn't just, your parents nagging you to sit up straight. There's real science here.
Right.
We're talking about the connection between how your body's aligned and how it functions overall. We've got some really interesting research lined up.
Okay, what have we got?
So first, a study looking at how even just a few minutes of bad posture can tire out your muscles before you even start exercising.
Wow. Okay.
Then another one showing how some straightforward exercises can help with those aches and pains tied to posture.
Useful.
And finally, a pretty clever study that actually tracked office worker productivity, really measured it based on whether they were sitting or standing.
Okay, great. So whether you're an athlete listening, or you work at a desk all day, or maybe you're just curious about how your body works, this should give you some things to think about for, well, optimizing your well-being and performance.
Definitely.
All right, let's jump into that first study then. The one about short duration, poor posture, and muscle fatigue. You said this one made you sit up straighter.
Yeah, it really did. Basically, they wanted to see what happens after just 15 minutes, only 15, of that classic slumped position.
You mean head forward, shoulders kind of rounded?
That's the one. And what effect that has before you do any real physical activity, like push-ups in this case.
Okay, so how did they measure that?
Well, it's quite interesting. They had 14 male volunteers, and they did push-ups, until failure.
Right.
And while they did that, they had these sensors. Think of them like tiny microphones for your muscles. It's called surface electromyography, or SEMG.
SEMG, got it.
Yeah.
Measuring muscle activity.
Exactly, in their arm muscles.
Yeah.
Then, a few days later, the same guys sat in that slouched posture, that bad posture, for just 15 minutes.
Uh-huh.
And this time, they had those SEMG sensors not just on the arms, but also on 8 different back muscles.
Okay.
Then, right after slouching, they did the push-ups again to failure.
And the big question, what happened after that short slump? Did it make a difference?
It absolutely did. The results were, well, pretty clear. Even that brief period, just 15 minutes of poor posture, it affected their push-up performance negatively.
So they couldn't do as many.
Fewer push-ups, yeah. And their arm muscles, according to the SEMG, seemed to get tired much faster compared to the session where they hadn't slouched beforehand.
Wait, faster fatigue just from sitting poorly for a quarter of an hour? That seems quick.
It is surprisingly quick.
How did they actually see that faster fatigue in the muscle signals? What did this SEMG show?
Right, so the SEMG data gave them these clues. They look at a couple of technical things in the signals from the biceps and triceps, median frequency and mean frequency.
Yeah.
And what they saw was, after the poor posture session, performance dropped off, sure, but also these frequency measures changed. They shifted in a way that basically signals the arm muscles were hitting that fatigue point much, much quicker.
So the muscles were already kind of pre-fatigued just from holding that bad posture.
That seems to be the implication, yeah. It's like they were already a bit worn out before the push-ups even started.
That's wild. But what about the back muscles? You said they had sensors there too while they were slouching. Were those muscles working hard?
Ah, yes, that's another really interesting part. The analysis of those back muscles, they looked at different parts of the traps, the trapezius muscle and another one called the infraspinatus.
Mm-hmm.
It showed that even in just those 15 minutes of sitting slouched, those back muscles were also showing signs of fatigue.
Just holding the position was tiring them out?
Seems like it. And, reading muscle signals during short periods of just holding a posture, static posture, can be a bit noisy, a bit tricky.
Right, not like big movements.
Exactly. So they used a more, let's say, sophisticated analysis technique. It's called wavelet packet transform, or WPT.
Okay, WPT sounds advanced. Did that give a clearer picture?
It did. It basically allowed them to zoom in, filter out some noise, and really see the frequency changes in specific back muscles more clearly.
And what did it reveal?
It showed that the infraspinatus muscle especially had these frequency changes, particularly a shift towards lower frequencies during those 15 minutes.
And lower frequencies in SEMG
Usually indicate muscle fatigue setting in.
Wow. So the body's working harder, getting tired, just trying to hold itself up against that bad posture. It's like fighting gravity inefficiently.
It's a good way to put it.
But what's the actual mechanism? Why does sitting like that for a short time cause this fatigue, even in the arms later?
Well, the researchers proposed a few ideas. One is pretty straightforward.
Right.
In poor posture, some muscles just have to contract harder, generate more force to keep your head and shoulders from slumping even further, right, to counteract the moment.
Okay, makes sense. More effort.
Another idea involves the muscles and ligaments in your back, the extensor muscles. When you're hunched forward, those tissues get stretched.
Ah, like stretching a rubber band for too long, it gets kind of less springy?
Precisely. It might affect their ability to function optimally afterwards. And then there's this really interesting concept called myofascial force transmission.
Myofascial.
Yeah, think of your muscles and the fascia, the connective tissue around them,
Right.
as this big interconnected web throughout your body.
Okay, like a network.
Exactly. So if you put strain on one part of the web, say, your back muscles, while you're slouching that tension, can actually be transmitted through this network and affect the function, the efficiency of other connected muscles, even muscles further away, like in your arms.
Okay, that connects the dots between slouching your back and then your arms getting tired faster during push-ups.
It provides a potential pathway, yeah.
So what's the takeaway for us, like day to day?
Well, think about it. Athletes on the bench between plays, maybe checking their phone, hunched over.
Yeah, you see that all the time.
This study suggests even those few minutes could subtly impact their performance when they go back in. Or for, many of us on our commutes, scrolling on our phones, sitting maybe not so great.
Guilty.
Yeah, me too sometimes. It could be having this low-level cumulative tiring effect without us even realizing it, affecting maybe how energetic we feel later or how well we perform other physical tasks.
That's definitely food for thought. Okay, so that's the potential negative impact. Let's shift gears. How can we fix this? The second study looked at posture correction exercises and pain, right?
Yes, moving towards solutions. This one looked at an 8-week exercise program for university students. 88 of them, men and women.
And the goal was posture correction.
Exactly. The program involved 20-minute sessions 3 times a week. Pretty manageable.
What kind of exercises?
They started with stretching in the first week, just getting things loosened up. Then the following weeks focused more on specific exercises for posture correction and body straightening, improving alignment.
Okay, 8 weeks, 3 times a week. What happened? Did it help with pain?
Yes, significantly. Overall, the students reported lower pain levels after completing the program compared to before they started.
That's great news. Was the improvement general, or did specific areas get better?
They saw significant pain reduction, specifically in the shoulders, the middle back, and the lower back.
Which are, really common problem areas, especially if you sit a lot.
Absolutely. Prime areas affected by poor posture during study or desk work.
Did they notice any differences between the male and female students in terms of pain?
They did, particularly at the start of the study. Before the exercises began, the female students generally reported higher levels of pain in several areas: neck, shoulders, middle back, lower back, and even the pelvis compared to the male students.
Interesting. Any theories why that might be?
The researchers mentioned a few possibilities. Potential differences in body structure, maybe average muscle strength levels being different, possibly even variations in how pain is perceived. They suggested lower muscle strength could make females potentially more susceptible to posture imbalances developing.
Okay. And did sitting habits or general exercise levels play a role in who reported more pain initially?
Yes, definitely. They found clear correlations.
Yeah.
Students who said they sat for 4 to 6 hours daily tended to report more pain.
Makes sense.
Also, those who admitted to having slouching habits and those who didn't exercise regularly, they also reported higher pain levels.
So it really paints a picture of how our lifestyle, lots of sitting, maybe not enough movement, letting posture slide, can directly contribute to feeling achy.
Precisely. It highlights those risk factors.
So the bottom line from this study is if you're experiencing that kind of musculoskeletal discomfort, especially if you're sedentary,
Then being proactive with some targeted posture correction exercises could make a real difference in your comfort levels.
good to know. It seems doable too, 20 minutes, a few times a week.
Yeah, the study suggests it's a practical approach, not just for students, but likely for anyone in a sedentary job too.
Okay, so bad posture can pre-fatigue us, but exercises can help ease the pain. Now, the third study sounds really intriguing, linking posture changes directly to office productivity. How did they even measure that?
Yeah, this one was quite clever, I thought. Instead of just asking people, do you feel productive, which can be, subjective,
Totally.
they tracked something objective.
Yeah.
Effective computer interactions, basically counting keyboard strokes and mouse clicks and movements.
As a sort of real-time indicator of getting work done on the computer.
Exactly, a proxy for active work engagement.
Smart. So what was the setup?
It was a 6-week study, involving 8 people on an architectural design team. Important point.
Mm-hmm.
They all use sit-stand desks.
Ah, so they had the option to change posture.
Right. But they split the group. For the whole 6 weeks, one group could just switch between sitting and standing whenever they felt like it, the control group. The other group, the intervention group, had a condition. For the first 3 weeks, they were asked to early sit. Then, for the last 3 weeks, they could use their sit-stand desks freely, switching whenever they wanted.
Interesting comparison. How did they keep track of who was sitting or standing when? Did someone watch them?
Nope, technology again. They used these little chamois displacement sensors attached to the desks. These sensors automatically detected and logged whether the desk was in the lower sitting position or the higher standing position.
Very cool. So for the people who could choose, how often did they actually stand?
On average, they chose to stand for about 47 minutes per workday. Not a huge amount, but, nearly an hour spread out.
Okay. Any patterns to when they stood?
Yes, that was interesting too. Standing was most frequent in the afternoon between about 2:30 and 4:00 p.m.
Classic slump time.
Exactly. And also a bit of a peak in the late morning, sort of 10:30 to 11:30 a.m.
Maybe needing that mid-morning energy boost.
Could be their bodies instinctively seeking a change, yeah.
And here's the kicker. They found a significant positive correlation between posture and productivity.
Meaning?
Meaning, when people were standing, they logged a higher number of those computer interactions, more typing, more clicking.
Literally more work output when they were on their feet.
That's what the data showed. They actually quantified it. On average, participants were approximately 6.5% more productive during the periods when they could switch to standing compared to the periods when they were restricted to sitting only.
6.5%. That's not trivial. That could add up over a week or a month.
Absolutely. It's a measurable difference.
And what about comfort? Did using the sit-stand desks make them feel better physically?
Yes, they reported that too. Generally, they felt better, more comfortable when using the sit-stand desks. They specifically mentioned improvements in back and neck discomfort.
So it's a double win then. More productive and less pain.
Looks like it.
Yeah.
Better comfort, better output. It's a pretty compelling case for postural variety. And those time of day patterns you mentioned, standing more in the afternoon slump time and productivity peaking then too?
Right. They also noted that overall productivity tended to dip at the very start and very end of the workday, which is pretty common. But those peaks in productivity during the day really lined up well with the periods when people were choosing to stand more.
It really suggests that changing your posture isn't just a long game health thing. It can have an almost immediate effect on your focus and how much you're getting done right then and there.
That's a key implication, I think. The impact can be quite immediate.
Yeah.
Just standing up might help you power through that task a bit better.
Wow. Okay. This has been genuinely fascinating. It connects so many dots between how we hold ourselves and how we function. Let's just quickly pull together the main takeaways.
Sounds good. So first we saw that even really short bouts of poor posture, like 15 minutes, can actually induce muscle fatigue.
Right. It can negatively affect your physical performance almost immediately after.
Exactly. Then the good news. Targeted posture correction exercises can be really effective in reducing that common musculoskeletal pain, especially in the back and shoulders.
A practical solution there.
And finally, for office work, having the ability to switch between sitting and standing, actually using that sit-stand desk, seems to provide an immediate boost to productivity.
About 6.5% in that study.
Yeah, and improves physical comfort too, reducing things like back and neck pain.
It really makes you reconsider those tiny habits, doesn't it? How you sit scrolling on your phone, how long you stay glued to your chair at work. Maybe just think about this. How could small, conscious adjustments to your posture throughout your day, whether you're about to exercise or you're deep in work, lead to some significant long-term benefits for your health, your comfort, even your efficiency?
That's a powerful thought. What's one small change you listening could maybe implement today just to be a little more mindful of how you're holding your body? And of course, this deep dive just scratched the surface. There's lots more research out there. We definitely encourage you to maybe look up the studies we talked about. Dig a bit deeper if you're interested.
And really consider how these ideas might apply in your own life, your own activities.
Absolutely. Food for thought and maybe action too.